Oops, I'm invisible. Good morning. So, all right. Is this too loud? Is that better?
Perfect.
That's perfect. But yeah, everything's always terrific. So, okay, how about that? Okay. Hi, Tal. How's Sheely? Hi, Sharon. Hi, Esther. Hi, Vanessa. Hi, John. And hi, Thubten, Kunga, Ling, Okay. So, all right. Welcome. So take a second, or maybe more than one, to settle into your seat, to kind of really feel your presence here, your body sitting in the chair, feeling your legs against the chair, the temperature in the room against your skin. And in this way, letting go of the busyness of getting here, the letting go of planning for later. Just take a few deep breaths, allowing yourself to relax in this moment right here. And you can smile to your efforts to be here. You plan to be here. You've showed up. We want to feel good about what we follow through on. So just take a moment to appreciate your body, all the parts that function, that you're still breathing after all these years. And recall the reason you decided to show up this morning. And based on that reason, write a positive intention to use this time well. And combine it with the wish that it not just benefit yourself, but that it will ripple out to benefit others. So let's recite the foreign measurables, which are on page 34. Those of you who can't see the TV. That's all right, you're being helpful. So page 34. So really try to imagine, right now, just sitting here, we are surrounded by all sentient beings. We're on a globe. So, we're part of this vast group, interdependent group of sentient beings, human beings and pets and ferocious animals and, kind of ridiculous looking animals like chickens. We're just surrounded. All the insects, all the fish in the ocean, all the other things that are in the ocean, sea urchins. I don't think they're fish. I could be wrong. I have no knowledge in this area. So, but it's like amazing. So we're just, the Four Immeasurables is about wishing them all well. And it includes us, of course, because we're part of all sentient beings. So may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. Wait for the screen. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And then page 98 for those of you comfortable reciting the refuge prayer. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So how are y'all doing this week? Notice anything? Observe your mind at all? Surely, yes. Surely. Did you find only good things? Did you find any good things? Yeah. Like what? Kindness.
Wish to change.
A wish to change. Yes.
Be better. Human.
The one fact that I was observing.
Just noticing that you were observing yourself. It's absolutely critical to develop this habit of just paying attention. Because that's the only way we can catch the conversations in our head that are not useful, that are leading us down, path that's going to make us feel yucky. Yes, Graciela.
I first thought it was bad, but now I'm thinking it's good. I discovered this disconnect between what my senses want and what is good for me.
I'm very familiar with that disconnect. So Graciela said she noticed a disconnect between what her senses want and what is good for her. Yeah, and yes, and we need to notice these things so we can choose better for ourselves.
Disconnect.
Yeah, and we don't need to judge it. It's not whether it's bad or good. It's just sort of, is this useful for me or not? We're not bad or good, but habits can be kind of useless. Some of our habits are not so good and they lead us down to, to more suffering. So, but we don't have to judge ourselves. I mean, that's really, really important here. We have to, if all you do is every time you make a mistake or you think something harsh about yourself, you just remember, oh, but I have Buddha potential. So I can't possibly be all bad, so it's just, we need to get out of the habit of equating our actions of body, speech, and mind with me, because that's a false me. That me does not exist. We're just dependent arisings, and our actions are dependent arisings. We want to observe our habits because letting go of habits that are not useful and replacing them with habits that are useful, will make us happier, kinder people. So it is not self-indulgent to be kind to yourself, to quit judging yourself or beating yourself up in your mind. That's just self-care. And it's not true. We don't need to keep lying to ourselves about how bad we are or lying to ourselves about how great we are, whatever, because sometimes we get through the day by thinking we're just better than everybody else. So we need to let go of both of those things. Because neither are true. They're not helpful. It sets us up for expectations, or it creates expectations that are just not possible to fulfill. I'm reading the chat notes. Screens are very distracting.
So my partner via nag, my word. So one time he went to say something for the fourth time, so I interrupted him. And I was like, got it. Like I hurt you.
Yeah.
Because he didn't understand. I was annoyed with his perfection. So he, and then I went, oh my God, I just planted a seed on my car. And I'm like, darn it. So I went to clean it up, but does that clean up that seed? If I take responsibility right after I've hurt someone, whether
Yes.
it's innocent or not, does it clean it up?
Yeah, it's called purifying. Genuine regret for wrongs that we have done purifies the wrong, which means it helps make the seed not be able to ripen in the future. It doesn't erase the seed having been placed on your mind stream, but it does help prevent it from ever coming to pass. Yes, and the sooner we do it, so, like we have a habit, or I had the habit, and our teachers all tell us we should all have the habit, of at the end of the day, kind of looking through our day and, generate genuine regret for anything that we didn't do so skillfully, and then rejoicing about all the things that we can be happy about. But if, in the moment that you do something, you go, if you genuinely regret it, and it's okay to regret your future suffering. You also want to regret the harm you've done to us. Because it's not just all about you, but it's because I throw that in there because some people feel guilty about even doing a purification practice because they feel like, oh, I caused this harm, I should get what I deserve. Okay, feel free. You don't have to. It's we make mistakes. But what we want to do is keep encouraging the habit of recognizing, oh, that wasn't skillful and that caused harm. Maybe I don't want to act that way or think that way or speak that way. Also, we want to get, I had another point. Yeah, but an immediate regret. I don't know what it was. Okay. So I want to say it wasn't important, but I can't trust my mind to say that. It might have been helpful. So, well, let's hope. We can be optimistic about that. Well, I'm now distracting myself so much, I don't even know. Okay. We really want to practice equanimity with ourselves. In our prayer, equanimity comes last in the four measurables, but in practice, it really comes first, that we want to develop an unbiased mind towards ourselves and others, and that's sort of the basis for more positive actions to arise. is, not self-judgment, not judging others, stopping all that kind of garbage talk in our heads, just, recognizing, oh, this is no help. Who cares what they wore? Who cares what, blah, 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 whatever. I don't know what your kind of conversations are in your head when you walk into a crowded room, and you sit there and trying to scope out everybody and what kind of things you think, oh, is he here? Oh, look what she's wearing, I don't know. Or you look in the mirror, you get a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and you kind of go, oh, what was I thinking? Or yeah. So, maybe that's important. It's not when we really think about it, it has nothing to do with what we value. So we really want to cut that kind of chatter out because it is depressing. Always thinking negative thoughts about ourselves or negative thoughts about others isn't a nice way to live. So we want to notice that. So we want to observe when we're being overly hard on ourselves, which might just mean being hard on ourselves. That might be sufficient to be overly hard on ourselves. In other words, there's no reason to be hard on ourselves. What's the difference between choosing to let go of a habit and being hard on ourselves? Yes. Yeah. So that's a lot of it is, we want to make a distinction between regret and guilt. Regret is this, and I mean, who knows what the dictionary says, but in this context, regret is just this active state of mind that recognizes, oh, that was harmful. I wish I hadn't done that. I'm sorry I did that. Guilt is, I am that. I can't change it. I'm a terrible person. I'm always going to be mean, rude, sarcastic, I don't know, critical, clumsy, incompetent, whatever your jargon is. Yes. Mary?
If people feel like that, that I'm always gonna be like this, then I don't know that they're so guilty about it. If they don't have any desire.
So what are you
to
doing
change.
right in this moment, Marianne?
Sorry,
What are you doing right in this moment?
ask. Maybe I'm judging, yeah.
You're judging someone else's. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm wondering if they feel like that.
So-
The way
Yeah.
they feel guilt.
I can't read their minds. I'm sorry.
You can't.
And who cares?
Okay.
This is about you. We really want to quit getting in other people's minds and stay
Okay.
with me. Yeah. And maybe you don't feel guilty. I mean, maybe that's not one of your things. I excel at it. I have a couple of loop ribbons at guilt, and it's not useful. It just keeps you stuck. In the context that I'm using this word. Regret, however, is this decision, like, oh, I don't want to be that way. That's not the right thing to do. I'm sorry I said it. I'm sorry I did it. I'm sorry, I'm sorry I'm thinking that way, and then trying to change it, not do it again. Not forever, that's not realistic, but to at least make to resolve to kind of, okay, I'll try to do better next time. I'll try to catch myself sooner. If I think it, I'll try not to say it. If I, say it, I'll try not to, do something physical about it. It's just, we just want to keep putting the stop sign when our negative states of mind are guiding us. And recognizing them as not helpful states of mind. So, yes.
So for me,
My is the critic.
Mhm.
I'm my worst judge. compassion.
Yeah.
So when I- do you have a suggestion of how to place those thoughts? I think that
Well, one thing is you have to find your own language, of course, you know. But one thing you can, start asking yourself is it true? Am I always this way? Because that's what we're implying when we're saying those things to ourselves. And when we say it about others, we're implying they're always like this. I'm always like this. I can't change. I'm stuck. I'm just a bad person. I don't deserve anything. Would you ever tell your best friend that? Why not?
It's not true.
Because it's not true. So we really want to, go, well, is that true? That's not true. And I had to, when I was working with guilt, I had to really remind myself, this just gives you permission not to try to change. Because that's what I used guilt for a few decades, I'm sorry, I'm just like this, take it or leave it. They usually left it because they were smarter than I was. So, we need to leave it. So if we treat ourselves badly, we want to just kind of go, stop. So you want to replace it with other things. So we want, so this is when you're not in the thick of it, because it's very hard to practice something when you're already feeling a different way, but it's good in the mornings to give yourself this kind of, this I am valuable talk. I have good qualities talk. And you want to base it on examples that you can, I treat so-and-so really well. I'm always there for her. Whatever it is, you want to find truthful examples of your value. So moments of compassion, moments of kindness, moments of helpfulness, whatever. But it's really important to kind of start replacing those, I'm always this, I'm always that kind of mentality, because you're neither. You're not always good either. That's okay. We're not Buddhas. So, but the more we can just practice in our minds, and then we want to, we can have compassion arise that we treat ourselves this way. The pain that it expresses. It just reflects wounds that we have, and it's just sort of like, somebody else in this particular life may have started that wounding process, but we're continuing it, so now it's us. So we want to, have compassion for ourselves and really wish ourselves to be free of that and not go into this, do I deserve it game? Of course you deserve it. There isn't any doubt about that. So we want to work on counteracting these beliefs we have about, that we need to hold on to every mistake we've ever made, and pull it out whenever necessary to prove we're not nice. Or every time we make a mistake, to say, I've done it again. Because that implies, and I'm always going to do it. That makes sense? I know it kind of goes against our culture. Well, it doesn't at the moment. We have a lot of self-care culture right now, but this idea of actually, speaking kindly to yourself. Can seem, I don't know, self-indulgent perhaps, but it's necessary if you're doing the opposite. If you're, talking trash to yourself. And if you need a reason to do it, that's outside of yourself, because that's where you're better at, just know that this kind of activity of the mind interferes with our ability to help others. Because when we're caught up with how bad we are, we're not noticing others. So you have to give yourself permission to be kind to yourself. It's a better condition for being kind to others. And it's practicing the mind we want to have. We want a mind of kindness towards others. Well, we count. It takes a while to change these habits and consistency of just kind of going, okay, I'm not listening to you. I do that a lot. I'm not listening to you. Thanks for sharing. But it's not true. You're lying to me again. I mean, I have ridiculous conversations in my head, but guess what? So do you. And we just want to make those conversations skillful, something that is going to help us develop habits and actions that are, cause us to have fewer regrets. So this equanimity towards ourselves is treating ourselves, not getting, not using the idea of I have to go to the other extreme in order to even it out, oh, I'm great, I'm perfect, I never make a mistake. Those aren't true either. It's being able to just understand that we are both. We do good stuff, we do bad stuff. We are skilled at some things, we're not skilled in other things. So when pride happens, it's really good to think about all the things you don't know, just to remember, oh, I can still learn more. There's lots of things I don't know. But then also when that feeling terrible about ourselves, you really want to bring to mind all the things you've done, that are kind and wise and helpful. And sometimes we have to deal with that. Reputation, according to the Buddha, is the hardest thing to let go of. Worry about our reputation. It's like we can have nightmares and think, gosh, if anybody found out that, I ever did that, or I think that way, or da 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 da, and we will do all kinds of things to hide that. And that can be a problem, as opposed to accepting that. Made some whoppers and mistakes. Everybody has. It's called learning. We make mistakes. And so what we want to do is learn from them, not beat ourselves up for the rest of time. And another way to look at it too is the time that we spend beating ourselves up or building ourselves up in the sense of going the other extreme. It's time we're not thinking about others at all. The more we can just, oh, that's okay. Yeah, there I am. There's that thought. That's my habit. Just seeing them as habits, not as fixed in stone, this is who you are. There is no who you are. That's that false I. That's that I that thinks it's permanent. I don't think it's permanent. We think it's permanent. Pronouns are very difficult, Yes, I think it's, permanent. But there is no I like that. It's not true. And there are a billion causes that come to every moment that have come together to be a condition for whatever is happening. So taking 100% of the blame for this or that, it's not true. And when we can have compassion for ourselves, for those things, those habits we've got that probably developed over being afraid, from being wounded, from feeling less than, from, all the different ways in which we feel like we have to do to survive. We want to have compassion for that, because that's just suffering. And we're adding to our suffering by developing those habits or by continuing those habits. So if we practice beating ourselves up, how much energy do we have to expend either not to be impatient with others, or how much energy do we spend being impatient with others? Because we're creating a condition in our minds to treat ourselves and others badly. And sometimes, if we really look deeply, we can recognize that the reason we don't have trouble with others in this way, we don't trash them, we is because we're not really thinking about them. We're still stuck on us. Everything's coming back to us. And of course, because we're more complete than just this or that, when we do really think about others, we're more mindful of all the things, they have a whole world going on too. So it's easy to, to kind of recognize, oh, maybe, I should be patient in this moment, because clearly something's happening with this person who's impatient with me in this moment. But if we're just practicing the mind that just beats ourselves up for every mistake we make, then we tend to project it outwards when the opportunity arises. Maybe with just strangers. Poor Nicole, every time I'd come into class, and I was so nervous, probably for 2 years. I was just so nervous. I'd come in and immediately say to Nicole about something that's wrong. So, have you done this yet?
Not true.
Oh, well, it's pretty true, but it's not always true, But this is, so we need to realize that not taking care of ourselves has consequences beyond ourselves, So it's important to take care of ourselves, so that we can be easy with others. Questions? Arguments? Debates? I just need water.
I think there are some things I will never do.
And you want to rejoice in that. And you want to also kind of go, and may I not in any future life, may I please, even if I forget the whole story, not forget that I don't want to do that again. So, but yeah, I think there are things that we can recognize, oh, I never want to do that again, And it's not just going down the highest roller coaster. So it's just, so we can feel good about that. We have changed when we can say that, But we've changed even when we just notice what we're thinking. We've changed when we've noticed what we're thinking and interrupted. We've changed, every little step is how we get there, and they all reflect change. Anybody else sweating, or is it just?
No, but I did notice it was low. You want me to turn it down one?
I can. I'm asking permission.
Yes, you can.
So It's the humidity. It's not because I'm nervous and I just sweat. No. But so, okay. Yes.
So one of the challenges, I think, when you practice, you get so involved in your own practice.
Of
So
course.
not everybody's.
We don't leave it behind.
Practice. So the challenge is take the conversation you have. You want to have honest, right speech, conversation. Sort of thinking, where's my ego involved in this?
Right.
Right, first, check in. But version to saying the right thing and being honest, not hurtful, is, I think, more challenging in real time with human beings. Because that takes a lot more than stopping yourself and reflecting is easier than finding the right way to communicate that is honest but not hurtful. At first checking in.
And I think honesty is overrated in conversations with others. Because it's more important to be mindful of others' feelings. Not always. I mean, we do have to have, conversations with people about hard things, like, that, I think it's important that these kind of conversations we have, that we handle them differently. Because I always walk away feeling bad. So, or I notice that you seem to walk away feeling bad, and I don't want to be, a condition for that. So there are difficult situations, but we want to be honest from just our part. We can't be honest about someone else because we just can't. We're not in their heads. We don't know what they're thinking. We can only be honest about what we're feeling. It's that old thing about, talk about I, not you. I feel this way, not that you've done something to make me feel this way. Or you clearly are taking my feelings into account. You don't know that. So we really want to be, that's where we want to be honest, is what do we really know? Remember that in nonviolent, she's having a different conversation. In nonviolent communication, where, you really want to communicate what's true, not what you're made up in your head that you think is true. And that's tough. So sometimes you have to do that in advance. You have to really sit down and go, okay, this is what I think. And you write it all down and then you go, okay, what do I know? And it's not enough to say, well, you told me this. You might want to ask, you said this, did I hear that correctly? That was scary. Do we have an Amber Alert? Or a Senior Alert? Silver Alert? Wow, I'll relax now.
It's like blood sugar.
That's an alert. Has it gone up or down? Is it okay? Don't faint on us. So, I have a cough drop. It's sugar free. Down, Brent. Oh yeah, I love technology. I do. No, it just, this is the thing, is that we want to be aware that countless conditions affect us, and sometimes we'll do something, it's perfect. It would be perfectly easy for me to yell at you for that because I was startled, and we want to be aware of those kinds of things about ourselves, that, ooh, this is a vulnerable type of moment, because whatever, because I feel fearful in these moments, or I feel I'm ready to be angry, which is often the case when we're listening to someone whose point of view we could disagree with. We're just like ready to jump, they're saying their views and you don't really want to listen, you just want to pounce with your point of view, which of course is right and they're wrong, but So we want to be aware of these, our buttons. Are you wearing one of those great big red buttons right now? And are you pushing it yourself by accident? Because all of these things affect how we interact with others. And so the more we get to know ourselves, the more we're gentle with ourselves and do self-care, the less we will take it out on others. The more we'll be able to go, okay, my caution sign is flashing because I'm feeling on edge. So I need to be aware, like I wear one of these things, these watches that tracks my sleep. Because if I don't get enough sleep for a few days, my fibromyalgia kicks in and I start having muscle spasms all over my body and I don't like it. But I also use it so that when I just don't sleep well one night, I can go, okay, that's a flag. Because when you're tired, you're more impatient, you're more this. You need to kind of be aware of that, be respectful to that. Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm noticing too is if I'm moving too fast, my habits are almost guaranteed to make the decisions for me or to be automatic. So I really have to slow down. And then I just have a question because my regret's going crazy about my partner. So in my head, I'm going, so I have a seed, I planned it on my own, but then I also have a seed on his. And after I'm like,
You don't have a seat on his.
but
You have an action towards him.
so he just doesn't necessarily get a seat. So I'm like, how do I clean that up?
You can.
Got it. So then
And you have to live with what you did. We can't, regret doesn't erase any of that. And we have to accept that. I really hated that. I remember talking to Geshe Gellick again and again going, so purification doesn't, it doesn't erase anything. So what's the point?
what is the
What is the point? And it's about helping guide ourselves to change our actions so that we don't have those regrets. It's not about being able to go back in the past and erase it, because a part of us wants that to happen. So we have to accept ourselves. We have to accept what we've done. Doesn't mean we have to approve of what we've done. We just have to accept it. Have regret where it's appropriate, rejoice where it's appropriate, and move on, move forward, but moving forward with decisions about trying to make changes so that we have fewer regrets. If we want to suffer less, we want to have fewer regrets. So these are all just ways of giving us the opportunity to make changes towards more skillful habits. We get to choose what we change or don't change, or what we work on and don't work on. But some things, we might go, I need to start working on that one fast because I'm hurting on my relationships because I yell too much. Or I'm hurting on my relationships because I don't speak up enough. We have to get to know ourselves and be really kind and gentle and accepting of whatever we find. Knowing that we're not one thing, we're not one moment, we're not any of that stuff. We're not even our habits. Our habits can change. But like Leif was saying, that if we're going too fast, we got too much on, we've got too much to do, of course our habits are what's going to be directing us because that's what they are. Habits become automatic. So if we're trying to interrupt habits, we have to slow down. And that can be very challenging if you're a fast kind of person, busy. I alternate between the two. It could be busy, and then I never move for weeks at a time. Anyway, yes.
So I have a question. So what if we realize our relationship is toxic and we move on?
Yeah. So we
It's
realize the
been
relationships.
years, decades
yeah.
that we have moved on, never even thought, and then every time we think about it, oh, we made that mistake, now it's a situation, don't make that mistake, do what's right, and then but what if the other person is trying to haunt you and bring it back?
Get
to
out of the
you,
way. You know, we can't fix other people.
Yeah.
We can just be an example of how to behave. You know, so we don't have to accept harm done to us in the sense of, oh, here, I'm the target, please hit me. You know, no, that's not acceptable. That's not good self-care. And it's not compassion to the other person because you're providing them the opportunity to do harm. You know, but accepting our limitation that we can't fix others can be difficult. Because we keep thinking in our head, if they'd only do what I think they should do, our relationship would be nice again. Maybe they don't care. All these things are difficult to accept when you have a difficult situation going on. But we can only control our part. We can only control our actions, our speech, and our minds. And all those things take practice. And it takes observation, it takes your reasoning, it takes your wisdom to look at situations and try to evaluate, like you're watching a movie, you know, okay, how could, you know, I handle that differently? What would it look like if I did this? Or is what they're saying, is there any truth to that? Is there anything that I could learn from what they're saying to me? You know, all that kind of stuff. We want to be able to do that. Yes, Tom. Oh, you're still muted.
Can you hear
There you
me?
go. Yes.
I thought that was very interesting, what you just said and what was said before about, well, not being able to fix other people, because the more deeply that I recognize that with the aid of the Buddhist teachings, I find that things are just kind of starting to fall away, you know? I mean, and these are situations or relationships, if I'm honest about it, where there was grasping on my part and, you know, a need for things to be different. And with this recognition, to whatever limited way I can recognize the teachings and, you know, just applying compassion and whatever understanding of emptiness I have, the grasping is less, but then the relationships, I've noticed that, you know, they just kind of fall away. And I don't know if it's really that it's the teachings. I can't tell the difference between whether it's that I'm really applying the teachings or I'm just kind of letting things go, you know?
Well, that is applying the teachings.
All right.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I feel like I have lost relationships. Yeah, I just thought that was a strange byproduct maybe of having this perspective. It's not easy, so.
No, it's not easy. Change is not easy, even though we're in it all the time. So this is, you know, this, but it's like, you know, addicts are, you know, part of their recovery is not hanging out with their old friends who are addicts still or using. Same kind of thing. As we change the way we think, we may let go of friends that persist in toxic thinking around us, that we don't, you know, we're not comfortable there anymore. So we just have to, that's a natural process. You might just find yourself, you know, not having as much enjoyment out of certain relationships, you know, because you've changed or they've changed. Because when you really look at your life, people come in and out all the time. People you thought might become a good friend never do. Others you never would have guessed would become a good friend do. You know, or, you know, people just flow in and out. That's the nature of things. Things change. And resisting change is a big part of our suffering. You know, this, insistence that things stay the same. But it is part of the things that we have to work with, because other people may walk away from you because they're not comfortable with you anymore. They just, I had friends when I first became a Buddhist who would just kind of go, oh, I know you're not going to like this, And I'd be sitting there going, where do they get this? I don't even know where they get this. This before I was a nun, so I wasn't looking weird, so it was just, like, oh, Buddhists are like this, kind of stuff. Anyway, I'm blaming all on them, but anyway, but it's just, people, you don't know what's going on in their minds, and people come and go. Well, that's why it's all the more important that we keep checking with ourselves and seeing if we're part of the condition, and if we're happy with that. So if we look and we realize, oh yeah, I'm dumping all my Buddhist philosophy on everybody, and they're kind of tired of it because I'm acting like they should change. Yes, her name. Sherry. Okay. Who's Lisa or Sherry? Sherry, you would raise your hand. I see a hand up at Lisa.
No, I did not have my hand raised.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. Lisa.
Yeah, hi, good morning. You just said something, I'm sorry, with all the confusion of the hands, I completely forgot. You said something about if we're a part of the, what? Part of the
Conditions.
Conditions, right, thank you. Because right now I'm working on letting go of certain grasping I'm doing. And like I'm expecting someone to behave a certain way, and I know that's not possible. So what did you mean by if we are a part of the certain conditions?
Well, I mean, obviously, in that case, like you're recognizing, you're grasping and wanting it to be different than it is or going to be, is part of your suffering in that condition. It can also be, our wish that someone would change can also be a condition for discomfort in the interaction with others. They may feel that. We're putting out that energy of be different, just, and we do this stuff in subtle ways. It's not just, we don't have to actually say any words at all, but there can be an expression on our face every time they say something that shows us, oh, they're not listening to me. Or I wish they'd be different, or there's the same old thing. We express it in other ways. And so that might be a condition. We also, like I was saying a minute ago, that, if you're new to Buddhism and you kind of like really take it on, you can then become this really obnoxious friend who's always saying, oh, but if you just try this is what I learned in this class today, blah, blah, blah. And that, people might just go, okay, time to turn off this program and move on. So, so we want to be aware of that, that as opposed to just being open and accepting of whatever arises, can be a better condition for change to occur in the relationship.
So if I'm aware of it, which I am,
Yeah.
And I'm working on just letting go and letting it be.
Right.
That's going to let go of the grasping, right?
Yes. I mean, and unfortunately, of course, you may have to do it in every second that you're with them for a while.
Yeah, or not with them either. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was able to do it with something else, so I know I can do it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of some situations, I guess, are more challenging than others.
Absolutely. So there's different, some are more challenging, also some we're more invested in.
Yeah.
That investment makes it harder to let it be.
It does.
Because, yeah. So if we really, it's like when I used to really want to have a good mother and a good father. So I go visit my parents. And so that was there, I was always just looking for proof that they'd changed somehow, and proof that they had not changed, all that stuff. So I was carrying a little, score card around going, oh yeah, there they are. Bad parent, not loving, not supportive, not whatever, downright mean, whatever. Well, of course that affected all interactions, even if I wasn't saying anything. And I can't remember if I was saying anything. I'm sure there were times I was saying something, but so when we're invested in the outcome, it's really hard for us to let it be, because there's something that we think that change from the other person will give us.
Yeah.
And if we don't get that, if that doesn't happen, we're not able to get it. And that wasn't true for me. When I quit going home, that expectation and went home, I'm just going home to be there for them. I'm their daughter. I want them in my life. I'm just going to be there for them. I got what I needed, because I was no longer evaluating everything from the perspective of this, poor neglected daughter. So it allowed space for a different kind of relationship to arise. Doesn't always happen. I mean, sometimes you do that and it gets worse. I mean, who knows? I mean, we can't control others, but we can look at what am I bringing to this picture, and being able to have compassion for ourselves, being invested. That's really important. To be able to kind of go, okay, I'm not going to get what I want out of this relationship. And maybe what I want is unrealistic, not, blah, 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 blah. But it makes me sad. And having compassion for that sadness, is self-care. Nicole.
I want to say that this past 6 months, I've been doing this process and recognizing as soon as the if only mind, I have a red flag waving and keep on checking out. Oh yes, what do I want here? And that has been so helpful in this exact situation, difficult relationship with someone, and letting go. And it's so persistent, it's so constant. And just, oh yes, every time the if only mind, because I do want someone to change, and I recognize I have to be the change I want to see in the relationship, and yeah, just keep on going with the end of self-passion. And it's terribly difficult, but it's worked.
Well, and the thing is, it's not like any of us think that life's easy right now. So doing this work, it's just a change of where you're putting your energy. Instead of putting your energy into, why can't they do this differently? Why can't I get what I want out of this? Why can't I da 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 da? Instead, if you're just working on changing the way you're thinking about it, then that's that energy better. So both are hard. It's hard to tolerate toxic relationships. That's hard. It's hard to change one. Which what would you rather be, stuck in the same place, or trying to move into a different space? And some people will come with you and some people will not.
So the bottom line is,
I look at it also like, we gotta be flexible too.
Yes.
The people at work and people in their families that, you're gonna have to deal with them one way or another. So you gotta start getting into that bodhisattva warrior mentality, and that peacock bodhisattva behavior too, of like transforming everything that's a poison into the path.
Yes.
And with these, and according to the teachings, these enemies, people who cause us harm, they're the most precise instruments that we use in order to achieve enlightenment. So it's kind of like, and also, being a representative of the Buddha Dharma Sangha, you don't want people feeling like, oh, look at him, oh, he's a Buddhist now he doesn't want to talk to anyone. Or, oh, look, he's indifferent now with everybody because he's a Buddhist.
Yep.
You want to give off the sense that what you're doing is good, and that you could be like a source of inspiration for others.
Yeah, and that's true whether you're Buddhist or not. It's just, having this bodhisattva warrior type attitude, which just means that you are taking whatever condition arises and using it to get closer to enlightenment. It just means what can I, what can I do in this moment that will further my ideals in myself, not in the other person. That might be the side effect, and that's great. But first, we need to work on our own selves, be more, I don't know.
So earlier when you said to see if we're part of the condition, no, we're always. part of the condition.
Of course, we're always part of the
So
condition.
To even take that question out.
Well, no, I mean, I think part of it is when you're looking to see what part you play in condition, it's just checking up on whether or not you're missing something that you are contributing to this difficult situation. And so you want to remove that because you have that control. You may not be able to remove it. In other words, this is why you always have to check up. It doesn't mean we just let someone be harmful to us. It's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to say, I don't appreciate being talked to that way. I'm going to leave now. All those things are okay. That doesn't, whether or not someone else likes how you're acting isn't enough to say whether or not you're acting okay. I mean, that's sort of like, the heart of a toxic relationship is this, constantly trying to put blame on the other person. So we have to be able to develop wisdom within ourselves and be able to look at the situation going, am I doing anything wrong? And we have to ask that of ourselves again and again. Yeah. Because the first time we look, we go, no. Yeah. And the second time we go, hey, I can see their point here. And so we just have to keep moving. But again, if you don't do it with gentleness and kindness and self-passion and love, we can get into this, giving ourselves more ammunition to beat ourselves up with. And that's not the point ever.
So
Yep.
basically, the bottom line is the fear of that, oh, we will not done. We do not have to get that feeling onto our head so that we lose control or feel it has to.
Well, we just need to recognize that if the fear of losing that relationship is part of the energy that's happening, that we need to also deal with that. Because that's going to affect how we're, so we may have to let that be. Yes, you might lose the relationship. And is that okay? See, like that's sort of with my parents. I had to decide, do I want to keep this relationship in my life or do I want to just, never show up again? And that's a choice and it's a legitimate choice.
Say that you have to keep check up with your energy. That what do you need? Can you please explain?
Well, I just mean you need to keep observing yourself. When we have that kind of icky kind of unease feeling, it's usually indicating that we're invested in something that's not happening. And we want to see what it is so that we can address it. Not that the other person can address it, that we can address it. Then we can go, oh yeah, that's right. Because we'd really like to keep the relationship going. Well, maybe, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that either. It's just whether there may be a point where we go, it's not healthy for me to keep this going. Or the only way I can keep it going is to, limit the amount of time I spend. Whatever. There are no absolutes here. It all depends. And things change. So we don't, it's not like we're one and done. We fix that. It's never like that. We're talking about people here, including you. Yes, Graciela.
I've had the experience that I have felt right with this perspective or wrong with this perspective, but if my perspective changes, then maybe it is right. So it's my.
Okay, I got lost in your rights and wrongs. Okay,
Well,
so good.
thinking that I'm right. or thinking that something that's happening is wrong.
So thinking that something that's happening is wrong.
Wrong.
Okay.
And then I start really thinking, changing my perspective, and I see it totally different. It's,
Wrong.
it's acceptable.
Yeah.
It's understandable.
Yep. So this is the thing, when we step back and look at things from, giving ourselves a little bit of distance to work with it, we might discover that some of our hard and fast, beliefs change. We realize, oh, if we could do this all by ourselves without any kind of guidance, without any kind of anything, we'd all be enlightened already. We've had plenty of time, but the reality is we have all sorts of stuff in our heads that are false, that are biased, that are, and we have to keep recognizing, oh, maybe I need to look at this from a different angle, and sometimes when you discuss things, sometimes you notice when you discuss something with a friend, it changes your perspective, and then you get to, it just depends. So and then we discover, oh, this friend's great to hang out with, to go to the movies with, to go out to lunch with, but not so great to discuss my personal life with, because, her point of view on this is not going to match the way I'm looking at it or what I want out of it or whatever. And that's fine too, please don't ask me any questions about how to pronounce words, because I can't do that. Don't ask me questions about Tibetan culture. I don't know any, so we just have to, know what we know and recognize when we don't know and be able to step back and keep checking. So, because other people also want to try to get their needs met. They're doing that all the time too. And some are more skillful at it than others. And some are more skillful in certain situations than others, just like we are. But the more we're in tune to how am I feeling in this moment, the better we're able to ascertain whether we can trust how we're reacting to a situation. Because if any of our fears have popped up, that's going to cloud our judgment. So don't make any decisions in those moments. Kind of step back before coming to any conclusions. Or, it's really recognizing, okay, it's like, well, I don't, this is what my memory of it is. When you're young and you see someone that's just gorgeous, and you're having a kind, you meet them. I learned how to peel crawfish by a really gorgeous guy. I was like 16. Yeah, I'm living in New Orleans. I don't know how to peel a crawfish, but boy, you see this really good looking guy. I'm going to learn now. Of course, everything they do is just right? Because they're gorgeous. They can't make any mistake. It's just pleasant to be in that space. It's totally absurd. But we need to be aware when we're under the influence. Some filtering kind of mind, and grasping is like that. I really want this to happen. That affects our judgment. Wanting to please someone affects our judgments. We really want to be aware of these things and not say, oh, aren't I stupid? That's not the point. The point is being aware so that you can try to take that out of the equation so you can make better decisions. Was it a mistake to learn from a good looking guy how to peel crawfish, other than the fact that, they're all dead, these crawfish, but, so I'm sorry. Did you get my drift? Yeah, I was a kind of useless teenager, so. Oh, well. But this is what we just said, this awareness of what's going on with me, am I really trying to impress someone? Do I really want them to think I'm smart? Do I really want them to not leave me? Do I really want them to, all those things are affect how we act, and we need to be aware of it. So that we can go, oh, I'm just really trying to make happen. We don't make good decisions. We're trying to make something happen. We can't hear objectively. We can't hear other people's perspectives at all because we've already decided. And we're just trying to manipulate things to make that happen. And it might all be just going on in our heads. We might actually not actually manipulate anything, but in our thoughts we are, Maybe if I say this. So we want to have, we want to spend some time when we're sitting quietly to do things like understand that self-care includes self-compassion, includes not talking badly to ourselves, not seeing ourselves as all one thing or all the other thing, all good or all bad or any of that stuff, but trying to develop equanimity towards the self, really being kind towards the self. We also want to think about examples where we can see how our lack of self-care is impacting the way we relate to others, wanting to help them or not help them, how it's fatiguing in a way, or we lower our self-expectation. We think, I can't be of any use, so we don't do anything at all. So we want to check in with that. And we ought to check in too, so we also want to look how self-centered where is my I in all these pictures, what is it that I'm trying to get? And is it the just normal, I that exists, or is it this, false I that tends to drive everything, like reputation? And how many things do we regret? Really remembering that when we are self-centered, that's something that we often treat others poorly. And then we regret that, which is a good sign, isn't it? Regret's a good sign that we can recognize that sometimes we're harming something, so, and being greedy. So we want to keep finding that I. Where's my I in this? Am I just trying to really get what I want? So I'm not even listening to what the other person wants, blah, blah, blah. But we have to practice these things because they're not habits. Because we already have the opposite habit. So if you have the habit of being mean to yourself, you have to develop a habit of not being mean to yourself. Yes, Graciela.
Could you say more, clarify what is the difference between self-centeredness and self-care?
Okay, so self-care is recognizing our needs, our limitation. We need sleep, we need work, we need exercise, we need food, we need, the things that we need to do to take care of ourselves. We need rest, those kind of things. Self-centeredness is, I need this before anybody else needs this. My needs are more important than others' needs. And we don't think that necessarily consciously, but we can tell when we haven't actually, when we look at situations and we realize, I haven't thought about what they might want, or I keep ignoring what they might want, because I'm really just care about what I'm going to get, It's that kind of thing. It's like, like you go and you forget your, for a simple example, you forget your reusable grocery bags, when you go to the store, and you say, well, I don't care. I'll just get that single-use plastic bag that's going to strangle some dolphin somewhere. That's self-centeredness. That's just saying, I'm the only one that matters here. I'm always having to go to the grocery and say, I'm sorry, let's just not bag anything. Just leave it, put it back in the cart because I have 17 bags in my car. I'll bag it when I get to my car. So those are just little things, but we want to be able to spot those little things and those big things where we're just putting ourselves first, and as if our actions don't matter to anybody else, as if we're not interdependent. So we say things that are thoughtless because we're forgetting that we're not the only person in the room. We might not even say hello, we just say, hey, have you done that yet? You know, so we want to really recognize if we're just plowing through life, plowing through our days, where it's just a list of things that we want. And sometimes even like our helping others is just something we want to accomplish. And so while we're helping them, we're thinking, oh God, would she get on with it? Really, we can be amazing when we look. We just, you know, it's just amazing. You know, so it's like we want to help when it's convenient. We want to, you know, it's just, we want to spot those things and recognize when we're being self-centered. You know, but we do have to take care of ourselves. That's important. This is that thing about being equal. But there are times, obviously, we all know this in relationships, there are times when we want to put someone else first. It's more important to put them first. You know, it's like with children, you know, like, you know, you've got the screaming baby who's hungry, you know, you're going to feed them first. Partly because you don't want them to keep screaming, but, you know, so there's an eye usually somewhere. So we just want to be able to recognize it, accept that that's what we're doing and not beat ourselves up for it, but just say, okay, can I choose differently? You know. Does that help? We also need to really look at what we base our self-worth on, because these other things kind of fall in with that. You know, if we think that we have to achieve anything, or, you know, that it's failure if what we do doesn't help someone else, all those things, that's not a valid basis of whether we're worth anything or not. We're valuable just because. You know, we don't have to prove our worth to anyone. We are worthwhile. And we particularly don't have to judge outcomes. You know, we don't have to judge our self-worth on outcomes. Because you're not going to get it right. You know, you're going to make all kinds of mistakes. You're going to get some things right. You're going to be helpful sometimes. You're not going to be helpful sometimes. You're going to try to do something and it didn't work out. You know, that doesn't matter. We have value. According to the Buddha, we have value because we can become enlightened and help free everyone from suffering. And when we overly judge ourselves, like, I could have done better than that, you know, we need to understand all kinds of millions of causes had to come together and conditions for anything to ripen. You know, we're not in charge of most of them. You know, this is where dependent arising helps to really remember just how many things have to happen for the clothes that you're wearing, how many people are involved, how many different events happen. You know, I mean, it involves so many different things. And that is true for everything that happens. You know, so, you know, kind of thinking, well, I could have done better. Yeah, maybe, you know, if you'd known this or known that or blah, 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 you know, that's okay. You know, we just, our worth isn't, our self-worth isn't decided that way. But we keep making that mistake. You know, we keep thinking, oh, I haven't earned this. If nothing else, self-care is valuable because otherwise someone else is going to have to take care of you. You know, it's that thing about like, if we don't provide health insurance, then everybody ends up in the emergency room. And then we're all paying for emergency room care. You know, it's like, you know, it's there's an easier way to do it. Is provide the help sooner. So by self-care, we're providing the help sooner. So you don't collapse in total fatigue, from not doing any self-care, not eating right, not getting asleep, we need to do those things. We have limitations. So we want to catch ourselves when we're starting to think, well, I don't deserve that. Maybe take deserve and not deserve out of the equation. Like, because I don't, like when you have children, most of us don't think they have to earn our love for them. They just do. They just, they're just worthy of our affection. But somewhere along the line, then we put it with other things. I'm sorry. You have to do this. Now, if there's nothing wrong with, for parents teaching their children, I mean, and then cause an effect in terms of, but it is important to kind of be careful about how you will reward and what you reward, because we want people to have that self-initiative. I want to value myself by being this way. I like who I am. I act like this. And that's its own reward. So, but we have to practice these things. But give yourself a pep talk at least once this week. Sit there and think all those terrible things you think about yourself and go, well, that's not true. And come up with some reasons why it's not true. And think hard if you can't find it, because it's not true. So they're there. Your good qualities do arise. Okay, we're sort of out of time. Do we have announcements for today?
We have 2 more sessions with you, Venerable Tenor, for this month. And we have Paula Chichester leading a Zoom course on Saturday and Sunday, April 1st, 2nd. And also Discovering Buddhism continues on Monday nights if people are interested online and learning more about the different modules of Discovering Buddhism. And first Sunday of the month, we bring food and join together for community. And Venerable Tenor will be back in June and July and October, November. So we hooray about that.
I'm going to retreat in April. I'm going to visit family in May. And my family lives on the other coast. Like almost as far away. It's on Alaska, but it's like Oregon. So it takes a while.
Yes.
In-person class will be?
Well, to be continuing the conversations that matter, like we were doing end of last year, talking about values, how we think, how we act, how we relate to others, and how we find meaning. So yes, join us for those. It'll just be an hour, and not as good as Venerable Tenor, but doing our best. Some talk.
Well, this is how we get there, isn't it?
Yeah.
We need to talk about it, and that's how we get there.
That's all on our website newsletter. So join those for more information.
Can't believe. So I have 2 more teachings.
Yes, 2 more.
Okay, I'll try to cover a lot. So till I come back. Okay, so now we want to rejoice in all the efforts that we've made thinking about things from a different perspective. Whatever you set a positive intention at the beginning, you followed through. And according to the teachings, all of our positive actions have positive results, and we just want to share the wealth. So the dedication prayers are on page 246. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies were worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then for the long, healthy, happy lives of our teachers, for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In the land and circle of ice, no mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chinrezi Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And for Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels. Savior, myself, and others, your disciples, please, please live long. So those of you at home, thanks for joining us. And I'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Tendrin.
Thank you, Tendra. That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable Tendrin.
Bye, Esther.
Bye.